Hello there viewers, I'm the Knight of Arcane, and today I want to follow the first prompt I ever did a little differently and draw Minecraft mobs as JoJo Stands. I had a lot of fun when I did with Pokemon, so I wanted to do it again with a different series, before I go back and do some more Pokemon as stands. And starting with this video, I've decided to introduce the narrator for my stand series, to start a small and fun narrative in this and other videos. I also want to take a moment to thank Popcraft Studios, both for their comment on my Alien Fusions video. It really meant a lot to me, especially on the day I got the comment on, but also for the shout out I got in his recent Phobias as Demons video. If you're not already familiar with him, go check him out. He has some amazing art, like his Ben 10 aliens as mech armor, and Minecraft mobs as superheroes. And if you came over from his channel, hi, and thank you for checking my videos out. Anyway, let's see the Minecraft stands, shall we? Hello, I guess. So, my name is Jacob Takemi, and apparently, after having the weirdest and probably most bizarre week of my life, and then being found out by the Foundation, I now have to give them bi-weekly reports on my day-to-day life, just to let them know if I run into any stands and their users, as a way to help them identify and categorize any possible or future threats, or whatever. Why? Because who better to attract and find them than another stand user? Look, the job's okay, but I'm only doing this to help support my folks and my sister, to help make sure they get a better life. Thankfully, as long as I report in, I get paid. However, this plan of theirs still attracts all kinds of stand users. From normal like me, more or less, to weirdos and criminals. Okay, for this first report, I gotta start with this one guy. Total creeper, I have to say. That just happened to also be a petty thief and arsonist. Not that you'd be able to tell by looking at the guy. Apparently he'd occasionally be seen at locations of small bombings and fires, but no one picked up on any connections between him and these attacks. Heck, you wouldn't normally even link the bombings together if it wasn't for the fact people always heard a crackling hiss before the explosions went off. Police and investigators couldn't even find where the bombs originated. Yet high-value items and cash would always be found missing from the locations, with no trace of them left behind. Anyways, I was just minding my own business, having to make a withdrawal from the bank when the guy bumps into me. I thought rude, obviously, but then heard a small hiss coming from him. So, I looked back at him and saw this weird green creature beside him. This thing had no arms, had a set of 4 cloven legs, with fur along its midriff, legs, and neck, along with a weird skeletal and muscle-like face, set between another green mask-like face. And for some strange reason, it looked like the top of its head was a bunch of TNT sticks wrapped together. It starts to pulsate as it then starts to leave his side, heading off to another location, though I didn't get a good look on where it was going, as gunfire went off and I instinctively dropped to the ground. Some pig masked goons burst into the bank, shooting the ceiling and yelling threats to people. They got about halfway to the counters when a long hiss goes off and a bomb seemed to explode right in the middle of this group. These thugs go up in flames, and once the smoke settles, I could see them covered in burns and blood, but they seemed to still be alive, if the horrified screams from them were anything to go off of. But this causes everyone to break into a panic. People rushing out the doors, security going to check on the robbers, and I spot the creeper from earlier slip off to the side. So I follow. He stopped at a portion of the wall and steadies it. I assume now this portion of the wall was near the vault. He starts to back off from the wall, and I barely hear him say creep when his stand appears again, going to the part of the wall he studied and starts to pulsate and hiss. Quickly putting 2 and 2 together, I rush around the corner and bring out my stand, Stay to my head, to help me as we both punch the creeper off his feet. That apparently stopped Creep from blowing up right then. He turns to me, eyes wide, and gets this crazed look in his eyes, though he also started sweating bullets as he looked from me to my stand. Creep gets resummoned, and we have a small fight. From my observations from our fight, Creep has the ability to explode when it's within a certain distance of a warm body, apparent when it seemed to only explode when it was a good foot away from me, though thankfully Stay to my head was able to absorb most of it. However, as long as it's near a warm body, even for a few seconds, it seems to be able to store up energy, making its hits seem louder and pulsating more erratic, leading to strong explosions. The creeper did seem to be able to remotely cause the stand to explode, but it seemed to do that, he needs strong concentration to cause the explosion to happen. And if it breaks, the explosion doesn't happen. Anyways, our fight goes on for a few minutes, and he starts to sweat more and more. After pushing Creep away again, he pulls something out of his pocket and throws it on the ground. Smoke explodes from the item, and covers him and his stand in smoke. I can't see a thing, and go on alert when I hear the hissing start up again, but don't see him. However, I soon hear a boom that causes me to fall to the ground. As I get up, the smoke is dispersing and I see a hole in the wall, leading out of the bank and into the alleyway. I start to walk over to the hole on guard, not sure if he tried to escape or is setting up a trap, when I hear a bloody scream from outside. Rushing outside, I see the creeper on the ground, bleeding out from multiple stab wounds. I notice a few figures walking away, but before I can get a good look at them, they seemingly vanish. After all that, all I can really think is, what the heck just happened now? It took a few days to figure out what that was. Turns out the creeper was attacked by some automotive stand, one that attacks when the user gets messed with. See, the stand's user was a part of that pig masked gang that was going to rob that bank. Apparently he was their getaway driver, while his younger bro happened to be one of the goons that went inside and got caught up in Creep's explosion. Hence him getting attacked in the alley. I was able to find out later that his brother died from his wounds, and he was not taking his death well. So while I was heading home, about 2 days after the bank incident, I see this car speeding down the hill, recklessly swerving between the lanes. You can guess who the driver was. This guy, unsurprisingly, was drunk, trying to drown his sorrows of his bro's death, but he's now barreling down the road at high speeds. And then I see this little girl starts to run through the crosswalk, and this guy is heading right towards her. So I rush across the street and tackle her to the side, while also activating Stay to my head to absorb the blow of the car and stop it. My stand is able to stop it, and the kid is thankfully fine. But I'm still a little new to this whole stand game, and accidentally release the energy absorbed and redirect it into the car, totaling it. An ambulance is called in, and I give my statement, minus everything about my stand, and while I watch this guy, who I later learn is named Erwin Farrowman, he seems to open his eyes a little, stare right at me, and croak out 2 words towards me. American pig. I honestly thought he was just being rude, or a bit delirious from the crash. But don't think too much on it as he gets sent to the hospital. However, as I continue to head home, I start to see this figure walking towards me. I didn't get a good look right away, as there was some distance between us before I turned the corner. But after turning a second corner, I see the same figure again, walking towards me, and I get a better look at the guy. It looked like some diseased pig-like man, with half of the skin on his face gone, showing a skull underneath. and a hole in its chest showing ribs, but no blood or organs inside. It wore a pair of tattered pants and a tattered cloak, a loincloth tied under its gut by a rope, and had some gas mask looking rebreather under its pig nose, and some other piece of machinery on its head. And it slowly clopped towards me with cloven feet, a golden covered sword in its hand. This all reasonably puts me on guard, and I get state of my head ready just in case, as I continue to approach them, when suddenly I have to dodge a blade coming down at me from the side. As I dodge that blade, another one then tried to sweep my legs. I narrowly roll out of the way of that blade, and once out of the roll, I look up and see two very similar looking pig men staring right at me, as the first one joins them. State of my head rushes them, still having some leftover energy, to redirect into one of these stands, which I assume is called American Pig based on some context from beforehand, and one gets sent flying, while also taking hits from the other two. I don't get much of a chance before I'm dodging out of the way of two more blades of another two versions of this stand. What I was able to figure out later was that this stand has the ability to automatically stalk and attack anyone who harms, hurts, or generally messes with the user. Apparently, the higher the damage someone does to this guy, the more copies of his stand will appear and attack, usually killing their targets. Unfortunately, I was able to find this out after putting the guy in the hospital. After taking a few more down, I decided to book it, since at the time more seemed to just keep coming from nowhere. Probably because of how severe his injuries were from the energy redirection. I was able to make it to a nearby park and slipped into a bathroom, bolting the door behind me, but still kept it shut with my body and stayed in my head, as about 15 versions of this stand banged on the door and tried to force their way in. It was a few hours later that I then noticed they weren't trying to bust in, so I peeked out and saw none of the stands around. Apparently, while the stand will attack you till you're dead, it will only be after you for a few hours. If you can survive their onslaught, they won't try to attack you again, unless you mess with Mr. Farrowman again, I assume. Exhausted from this fight, I walked home with no more attacks that night. However, not knowing how the stand worked at the time, I was on edge, waiting for the horde to try and finish the job at any moment. I was exhausted and tired, barely slept the next few days, which made me the perfect target for them. After 3 restless nights, I started to notice this thing. At first, it was just something I saw through my window, flying above my home at night, though I thought it was just a bat at first. The next night, though, I had to go out late to get some groceries I forgot to get earlier in the day. While not super important, I wasn't doing anything at the time, and I had the next day off from my other job, so I could go to bed later if need be. I did notice something flying in the air earlier, around when the sun was starting to set, but forgot about it as I left my home into the night. However, I was about halfway to the store when it attacked, flying right at me from behind. I could barely dodge it due to my fatigue, and it was able to get a slash on me. I prepared myself now with state of my head, but I couldn't see it as it made another attack on me. It took a bit longer than I'd like to admit to figure out it was hiding in the darkness of the night. After another attack on me, I was able to spot a working street lamp and ran towards it, dodging more attacks, but still getting hit a few times. Upon making it to the lamp, it stopped, and I was able to get a good look at it as it flapped in the air. The stand was extremely creepy, with 2 sets of wings, and bone-colored spikes along its midnight blue body and wings. It had no legs, just a bony spine-like tail and green eyes set in a bone-like mask. But the creepiest bit was its mouth, a circular maw of teeth, like some eldritch monster. It seemed annoyed that it was in the light of the lamp, and it took a little bit of time to figure it out, but it only appeared at night, so it must not be able to be in light for some reason. The stand then started to talk to me, or should I say, its user talked to me through their stand, as they never showed up in person during this fight. They seemed impressed I was still standing after all of the hits "I'll sleep when I'm dead" gave me, saying I should be down by now. I put on a bit of an air of cockiness, hoping to help me out in the situation, and told them it would take a lot more than that to kill me. The stand looked at me, and then gave a screeching laugh, as it then explained to me they weren't looking to kill me, and if they were, I'd already be dead. No, they explained, someone hired them to knock me out and capture me. They never explained why, or for what reason, just that I must have pissed someone powerful off, and that they had a job to do. One that became so much easier after the last few nights. They seemed to get a bit confident, as they explained "I'll sleep when I'm dead" is stronger against enemies that are tired, fatigued, or haven't had much sleep recently. That if it wasn't for, and I quote, that boorish thug Irwin, they'd actually have a harder time against me. But they then told me the time for chatting was over. Before I could process that through my head, they flew up to the light and bashed the light bulb, leaving me in the darkness. I had to take a moment to readjust to the darkness, but during that time they were able to get in a lot of hits on me. They claimed to not be super strong, but this stand is fast and hard to see in the darkness of the night. It honestly felt like the end. I wasn't getting any hits on them, and most of their hits hit me directly. Stayed in my head, barely absorbed any of it. I thought I was done for. Until, well, she showed up. To backtrack a little, earlier that day, I actually ran into this stand user while at work. Her name is Akiho Hurley, and I was first able to chat with her while making her order, and a bit more after my shift was up, while I, showed her a bit around town. This might be a bit personal, but I learned she was new in town, and looking for a fresh start here. She was cool, funny, surprisingly not afraid to be a bit crude or to cuss someone out if they pissed her off. And very attractive. She had a very attractive personality. Yeah. Anyways, I gave her a few suggestions on where she can look for some jobs, personally knowing a few of the places that currently had some open positions. She told me she was already covered, but took my suggestions anyway, stating just in case and all. We actually hung out a lot that day, and like I said, she's fun to hang with, but due to all that, I lost track of time a bit, and was the reason I forgot to get the groceries. Originally planning to get them after my shift ended, leading back to the events of that night. Back to that fight, I was so exhausted, and it looked like "I'll sleep when I'm dead" is coming in for the final blow of the fight, when I hear a familiar voice shout out, "Light 'em up." A bright light then flares up behind me and causes "I'll sleep when I'm dead" to halt its attack and back up. I turn around and see Akiho standing there. Right beside her is her stand. She explained later it was originally named "My Song Knows What You Did in the Dark," but she shortened it to just "Light 'em Up" to make it easier. But this stand was quite literally blazing. arms that ended in stumps at the elbow, yet had the forearm floating right below them, moving as the upper arm did, along with an additional 2 sets of arms that floated with them. Her hair was a living flame, and another flame went down from her waist like a dress tail, and smoke started to circle around her. Akiho gave me a reassuring smile as she walked up beside me, before glaring at the enemy stand, who looked quite pissed at her showing up. "I'll sleep when I'm dead" told her to leave, saying it wasn't her fight and that they weren't interested in her. She replied that it was a pity, and she was interested in her. The enemy stand gave an angered shriek as they flew towards us. It was still fast, but now I was able to see it thanks to Light 'em Up's flaming body. Not that kind of flaming, get it? During the fight, I was able to learn Light 'em Up is able to use all 6 arms to fight. When she threw a punch with one arm, the other 2 would follow suit, all burning bright with fire, with apparently the second and third punches able to do more damage than the punches that preceded, though this doesn't carry on to the next punches of the second attack, but that's made up of the range she's able to throw the punches, able to be launched a few feet from her person. Not only that, but each hand could produce a flame to then use as projectiles or small flame shields. With Akiho's help, we were doing damage to the stand, who really didn't like the flames from Light 'em Up. They seemed to look between the 2 of us, frown, then give us a glare, before issuing us a vague warning. "I'll be back, and won't be the only one next time." They then flew straight up and disappeared in the night sky. I collapsed from the exhaustion of the fight, but Akiho was then able to help me back up to my feet, before helping me patch myself up. I asked her what she was doing out that night, but she gave a vague excuse of still getting used to the town, and quite preferring the night than the day. I believe there's more to it than that, but didn't push on it. I'm sure if I need to know, she'll tell me. She then asked me why I was out, and explained the situation. She actually blushes a little at indirectly being the cause of tonight's events, and offers to help me get the groceries and get back home. After grabbing the groceries and getting back home, she tells me to get a good night's rest, to make sure I'm not an easy target for I'll sleep when I'm dead, and that she'll see me around, before handing me a piece of paper with her phone number on it and running off. I believe she'll be able to help me out with more stand users in the future, though haven't gotten a chance to talk with her since that night. Anyways, that's all I have to report. I took a few days to rest up, and haven't seen any sign of I'll sleep when I'm dead, while Erwin is still in the hospital, and I honestly don't know if that creeper is still alive or not. I assume dead due to all the stab wounds though. Now, I've got to work a little with my stand. Need to be prepared for the next encounter and all. JoJo Kemi, signing off. And there we have them, our first round of Minecraft mobs as stands. This was a great set of art, and loved designing them. I'll Sleep When I'm Dead and Light 'em Up being my personal favorites. I think it was a clear and obvious choice for the Phantom-inspired stand to be called I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. But what do you think? Should I draw more mobs as stands? If so, let me know in the comments, along with anything else I should turn into stands, or any other prompts involving Minecraft and JoJo I should do. I do hope you like JoJo Kemi, who will be my narrator for these stand videos going forward. And do plan to tell how he got his stand, along with draw him and State of My Head in the future. We also have the first round of things as stands with my Pokemon as stands video, so check it out if you'd like, along with my other videos that might interest you. I'd also like to take this moment to prompt my Patreon, where we have weekly art polls and monthly art rewards depending on the tier. And we're setting up Patreon goals, so if you want to see me draw Animal Crossing villagers as stands or Transformers as Mandalorians, along with helping to support my series and other projects, Become a patron today. We also have some subscriber goals to also check out. I'm very excited to reach them. They include Pokemon as mech armors and Transformers as stands. So subscribe to see these happen and leave a like if you'd like. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.